You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na, 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 na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, that's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
On and supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if I, Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
you are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. Or I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness, to balance out all the bad news that's so readily available out there. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words here on the show. No Kanye talk now or later, formerly or in the future. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests these past 1,156 shows later, podcast shows later, and 12 years, 627 consecutive weeks. And I'm just so delighted that you're here. And a huge welcome. We have new subscribers here. We've got my expired account, who's not really expired right now. And then Trevor, who is an actual paid subscriber. So we want to give you a very special welcome. It is $2.99 a month to connect with me after the show as well, so that if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about what we talked about on the show or anything else, that is what you get for the new subscription program. And of course, Sci-Fi Mombi is also a member. So thank you. Not only do I have great topics and guests, I have great series. And today is Wednesday, because you see the beautiful inside and out Dr. Tiffanie Tate in the house. Let me just give you a little bit about her in case this is your first time seeing her. She is a U.S. Navy veteran, a published author, and retired OBGYN from Compton, California. She's a playwright, singer, poet, songwriter, and more. She's the published author of several books, a new one coming out soon, and my favorite, the one that's called Bad Touching. Please welcome back to the studio, live here, Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
Thank you for having me again, Dr. Marissa. Always a pleasure.
Of course. You might remember that last week I hijacked this particular show to celebrate 12 working years on the air, on camera. And she was my interviewer for a change, put me on the hot seat and did a great job. So thank you for that. And now we're back to the regular doctors in the house. Y'all know I am not a medical doctor, but I am a PhD, which just stands for piled higher and deeper. My field of expertise is organizational psychology, but it allows both of us to say doctors in the house and give you our 8 cents worth on whatever the topic is at hand. And just to give a little preview, what are we talking about today, Dr. Tiffanie, before we do breakfast?
Today we are talking about imposter syndrome.
All right. And if you don't know what that is, stay tuned, because after breakfast, that's what we're going to be talking about for this show. Now, what is breakfast? Those of you who are new joining, every morning on this show, because I produce it, I get to add a thing called taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. I want you to start your day in the most positive way. 8 things at the top of the bun. What do you like about what's going on around you, your life, outside of yourself. And then the bottom of the button is what do you like about yourself, which you're going to do before you go to bed. We're just going to model it now. That way you're not thinking about what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with you. Instead, you're going to be sleeping on what I like about myself. So that's what we're doing today. Dr. Tiffanie, what are you grateful for? And before I finish that question, please do participate. Those of you in the chat want to hear some gratitudes from you. That cuts down our gratitudes. Not that we don't want to do it, but this is a very much so participation show. So here we go. Dr. Tiffanie.
I am now the proud mom of 2 college graduates. Mia received her bachelor's from Azusa Pacific University, and Nathaniel received his master's degree from Azusa Pacific University. Thank you very much.
Huge milestone for mamas, for sure. I'm grateful that Mother's Day is coming up. It's one of my favorite days of the year. I wonder why. Actually, I get poetry from my younger daughter. She's a beautiful writer. If we have time, I will read one of her poems. And so I'm grateful for that. Let's see if there's any gratitudes in the chat. I do see there was a comment. So, we've got someone else. We've got one of your sisters here.
Yes.
Oh, no, is it? Yes, I think so. Gerald, is that one of your
sisters? It is not.
No. Another new listener watcher. Welcome to the show, Gerald. We're doing gratitudes. Let's see, your turn, Dr. Tiffanie. Oh, no, it's my turn. I am grateful that I just returned safely from Canada. And the flight was great. I had a lovely visit with my mom, who has Parkinson's, my Chinese mom, and was able to buy all of her favorite food and spent some time with her, which was great. She is really feeling the effects of the Parkinson's medication, so her ability to engage is definitely decreased, but she's 89. I'm going to go back in October and do a big 90-year shindig. So I'm grateful that I got a chance to fly, which never gets old. I love flying. But that yesterday's theme song was, I'm coming home to the place that I belong. I love that song, and I know I butcher the words. All right, Dr. Tiffanie, what are you grateful for?
Well, everything I'm grateful for is essentially centered around my children right now. And I am grateful that the matriarch of my family, my mother is one of 12 children, or she was one of 12. And the matriarch of her siblings, my aunt Lula, was able to come out and celebrate at my children's graduation party. And I want to say she's 88 years young. And it is always a pleasure for her to come out to their graduation party. So my heart just melts when my Aunt Lula shows up. So I was very thankful that she came out in support of them. I just wanted to burst out in tears.
Oh, I know. I can't wait to meet her. She sounds just absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have 2 of the same questions on the chat. What is the phone number of KCAA if you're driving and you're not on camera here that you can see us and you wanted to call in with a question? Unfortunately, we don't have a way to patch in the call, but I believe JD can pick up that call and translate whatever question or comment you have, or you can actually just do it directly in the chat. And if the question is on par with the topic at hand and following FCC regulations for the language, then I can pop it up on the screen. Hint, hint. Okay. I am grateful that I am going to be teaching this Saturday. If you're in Southern California, I will pop this up here. The Wellness Festival is going to be at Rush Park in Rossmore, California. And as you can see, I'm going to be teaching Chinese yoga, which is a balanced Tai Chi Gong, promotes inner peace one breath at a time. So it's a free event. Come join us. Last gratitude.
And I am grateful that Nathaniel will be pursuing his doctorate degree at Rutgers on a full scholarship.
Oh, I already gave him too many applauses, but that's awesome. Yay, he did decide PhD is the way to go, man. I tell everybody, my father used to say, get as much education as quickly as you can because nobody can foreclose on it, steal it, you can't lose it. And it is once in a lifetime. So, wow, he's following after your footsteps there, Dr. Tiffanie. And how wonderful is that? Do you hear that, Chloe May and Sarah Way? Hint, hint, hint. All right. And my final gratitude is I'm grateful to be going to China in June, going to the Beijing Book Fair to look for, I don't know where I put the book, a Chinese publisher now that the foreign rights have reverted to me of my #1 best-selling book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. And so all the plans are happening now, and it's exciting. I get to bring my little daughter with me, her first time in China. So, yeah. But that's it for the top of the bun. Do I see any more gratitudes in the chat? Let's just check it out. I'll say that Gerald is grateful that he lives in Dallas. My daughter's boyfriend is a huge Dallas fan, so I'm sure you guys are watching the game. Sorry about last night. I have a bet on the next one. So a dollar bet. And then let's go to the bottom of the bun. Those of you who don't like yourself most of the time, this is just for you. I know I was one of those who was very critical of myself. No one was harder on me than I was. I am my own worst critic. And really, that is not a great way to live because you're never good enough. So we do the bottom of the bun to encourage you to isolate or highlight things that you do like about yourself so that you're not beating yourself up a lot. So Dr. Tiffanie will start off. What is something that you like about yourself?
I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for being a good mother and as Mother's Day approaches. So yes.
I like that. I like that. I will ditto that. I'll raise you one. I appreciate that I am a great mom 88% of the time. Not perfect, 12% of the time. I probably yell a little louder and longer than I really would like, but I've done a one step better than my well-meaning, sometimes more mean than well mom, who did the best that she could. But I definitely appreciate my ability to be an 88% fabulous mom.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead.
I appreciate the fact that I am being an advocate for myself. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm a trustee for my church, and we were actually in a meeting last night. And a lot of times I'm up in the room counting the money, and I haven't traveled much. At least for me, I don't think I've traveled much this year because usually I travel.
You have. So what are you talking about?
For me.
Oh, okay.
For me.
All right.
For this year, I think I went to LA, and I don't consider that traveling for my sorority. So I've been at church for the most part, most of this year. And we had a trustee meeting, and I said, well, this summer is kicking up, and I was giving them notice. I'm really about to travel. I have a lot of traveling plans, June, July, August. I'm like, look, I'm about to be out. So I'm letting them know, I'm giving them notice. And, there was a little heeing and hawing, like, uh-oh, here she goes. I'm like, look, I'm telling you, I'm out. I'm giving you notice that I'm out. I'm a volunteer. This is I pay my tithes. I give my service to the Lord. Me and the Lord, we have a connection. So peace out. I'm out. Being advocate for myself. And one of the people were heeing and hawing. I'm like, I'm not afraid of X, Y, and Z. And if she has any problems, she can take it up with me. Pastor, deuces, peace. I'm out. And so I was able to advocate for myself to let them know I'm out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I will end the bottom of the bun by saying that I appreciate my ability to stay on the air and on camera. And thanks to technology, we are streaming everywhere. This is simultaneously on Facebook, LinkedIn. Still working on how to get the Instagram to work, but my YouTube TV channel is home base for this show that has run 627 consecutive weeks. So just don't worry about not being able to get the airways. Yes, the answer for Gerald on sponsorship. Love sponsors. I just popped someone up that is sponsoring today's show, and that is the Wellness Festival. But if you have something that you would like to promote on this show about hope and happiness, please do contact me. Lots of different ways. Just use my assistant Google to put up Asian Oprah or Dr. Marissa, and it'll take you right to many different ways that you can contact me. All right. And that's it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
I promise you that if you do this for 28 consecutive days, you will build a good life habit and a hashtag Blisscipline that will help you be happier. Because frankly, my dear, if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you expect anybody else to? That's it for breakfast. Thank you again. Thank you to all of the new folks on the chat and the old, not old, but the regulars. Dr. Tiffanie, you introduced the topic, the imposter syndrome. And as per usual, why did you pick this topic?
Well, I picked this topic because right now you have my children just graduated, and then you have a lot of other people who might be graduating or being promoted despite what's going on with protests and things like that. But a lot of times, whether you're graduating or starting in the workforce or people who are already in the workforce, I have found that a lot of times people are conflicted, whether they are just entering the workforce or they're already in the workforce. I've had a lot of discussions with family and friends. Sometimes they come to a crisis, a professional crisis, and they're like, I really get concerned with what I'm doing, or I feel like I'm not in the right space, or I'm not in the right place. And they begin to question themselves. And as I started doing my research, because that's scientific mind,
Yeah.
that imposter syndrome, that term is a term that has been thrown out quite a bit nowadays. And it is very prevalent. About 3/4 of the population, especially women and minorities, people of color, experience it. They say only about 46% of men experience it. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Or
And
they lie or hide it well.
Yes, they hide it well. I think they probably hide it well or deny it. But I thought it would be a good topic of discussion since at least 3/4 of the population upwards experience it. So things that make you go,
Yeah, great. And my reaction when you suggested the topic was great one, because I know I have personally had that syndrome. And the way that I defined it in the promo was, do you walk around feeling like you're not really who you are? Do you wonder if the way people see you is real or just a role that you're playing to make them happy, or worse, to make them think that you're better than you actually feel? Or I just thought of one is that you want them to think that you are better than you actually feel. So the motive for the imposter syndrome is either fitting in, looking good, being praised, not look stupid, not want to be humiliated, want to be all that and more, or seen that way. So there's a lot of different motivations for why you might even pretend or feel like you're pretending. So great topic. All right, research woman, the research doctor. Give me some more that you found out.
Yeah. So you can have it professionally, you can have it personally. So I said, okay, well, what is imposter syndrome? And it says it's the internal feeling that you're anxious, and you have it despite you might be high performing. So despite any type of accolades you might personally have achieved, you may feel it despite any objective reality that you have otherwise. So you have this internal fear, and we already talked about fear is false evidence appearing real. Okay. So we already talked about that in previous episodes. And so this is a condition that often results in people feeling like they're a fraud or they're a phony despite their abilities. And so you're like, okay, well, people are going to think that I don't belong here, even though you do. So you've written books, you're on the radio, but you may not feel that you deserve to be in the room, and you deserve to be the speaker, or you deserve the success that you've achieved, even though you have the right to be where you are. And you're like, okay, at any moment, I might be found out.
And I'll just interject for 1 second on a personal note. This is so, God, right to the bone. I remember for years and years and years, people would say, "Oh my God, Dr. Marissa, is there anything you don't do?" Or, "Wow, look at you and look at the awards and all that." And I would receive it graciously and they say, "Thank you very much." Or my Chinese cultural thing would kick in and go, "Oh, no, 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 it's not that big of a deal." Or I would say, I'm famous, in my own mind, and try to, self-deprecate. And it looked like I was confident. It looked like I really believed in what you were saying. It looked like I felt like I deserved, but you would watch me if you could follow me, and I would go in private, and the critic would say, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? You're so lucky they don't really see you for who you really are. You're so lucky that they don't know what you've done in the past, or what you really look like on the inside, that you're not all that, and you're just a great pretender, blah, 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 blah." That voice would just like beat me down. And so that was the concept. I felt like two people, right? One in front of you and one the real me that would integrate all of that horrific criticism that was driving my life car over a cliff. And I think maybe, Jerry, you and this is one of Dr. Tiffany's sorority sisters. Jerry, welcome to the show. Always great to see you here. And that's my personal experience with the imposter syndrome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember when I was at Vanderbilt University Medical Center doing my residency, and we had a surgical emergency, and it was a prolapsed umbilical cord, and I was running labor and delivery, and I had to do an emergency cesarean section, and I did probably one of the fastest ones, probably at that time to date. And I did the incision, and delivery was within the same minute. And the maternal fetal medicine doctor, I remember it was Dr. Audrey King, and she was praising me. She's like, "Oh my goodness, Tiffanie, you did incision to delivery. It was within the same minute." And it didn't really fathom to me. I was like, okay, I'm a third-year resident. I had just finished the third year. I was beginning my fourth year. I was like chief, and she was praising me, but I didn't really receive it well because I couldn't really appreciate it. And it was a big deal to go from skin to, through all the abdominal organs to the uterus to the actual delivery of the baby, minute to minute delivery at the same time. And it literally saved the baby's life. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, that was amazing. That was this, that was that." But you still feel like, do I really deserve this praise? Even though it was an amazing thing, as I look back on it, it was amazing. But in that moment, you don't really want to receive the praise. And you feel like, okay, I don't deserve it. And that's part of that imposter syndrome. At that time, I didn't know what to classify it as. Hindsight is always 2020. And so when you start looking up, well, as I was looking up imposter syndrome, there's 5 types. Did you know that? I didn't.
Nope.
There are 5 types of imposter syndrome that you can break it down as. There's the perfectionist, there's the superwoman or superman, there's the natural genius, there's the soloist, and then there's the expert.
I got all 5.
Yeah. So I was like, huh. And so you can kind of figure out which category you want to fall in, or if you're a hodgepodge of them. And so the perfectionist is usually always focused on the high goals. And so usually you're like, okay, whether you realize it or not, you're always the control freak. And I probably have a few of those tendencies, just a little bit,
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, you kind of want to micromanage a few things. And so you always want to do it yourself. I always want to try to get other people to help. I always want to oversee what they're doing a little bit. And so if you're not sure if this is you, you may want to ask yourself a few of these questions. Have you ever been accused of being a micromanager? Yeah.
Maybe once or twice.
Do you have difficulty delegating? I don't.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Even when you're able to do so, do you feel frustrated or disappointed with the results when you delegate to other people?
None of the time. Sarcasm is another service I offer.
Okay, when you miss when you miss the mark on something, do you accuse yourself of not being cut out of doing it or something like that?
Nope.
No. And do you feel like your work must be 100% perfect 100% of the time?
All the time.
Okay, so then you're the perfectionist type. So you want to try to own and celebrate your achievements more often, and try to relax a little bit more, and that might help you ease into things a little bit better. Just a little bit.
What, the one with 8 jobs that she wants to do perfectly? Nah.
Yes. So then if you're the Superman or Superwoman, these are the people who experience the phenomenon, and they are often convinced that they're phonies and amongst their colleagues, and they're always comparing themselves against other people. And so when you're in the room with other people, you're like, am I better than that person? Am I better than that person? Oh, I'm definitely better than them. I don't know about that person. And so you may want to try not to compare and contrast yourself against other people. And so you don't want to try to work hard. You want to work hard and try to beat yourself and not necessarily compete against other people. And and you often overwork yourself to cover up your insecurities. And if you're not sure if this is you, then you want to ask yourself these questions. Do you stay late at the office, later than the rest of your team, even past the point that you need to do the job? And do you get stressed when you're not working and find downtime completely wasteful? I don't. I love vacation. So that's
yeah, you're not that for sure, Dr. Tiffanie. No. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio today, you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, and my very special Wednesday series called Doctors in the House with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And this is NBC News Radio KCAA, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050. FM 106.5 and streaming everywhere in over 100 nations worldwide, as well as, of course, in all 50. How many states do we have? I'm Canadian originally, so
50.
Is it 50? Okay. I thought there was 51 for some reason. Anyways, 50 states as well as on all of the major platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my main channel called my YouTube TV channel. So glad you're here. The topic for the day is selected by and being researched by Dr. Tiffanie Tate is imposter syndrome. And she's going down the list now to find out if you are any of the one of the 5 types of imposter categories there are. And we've already identified I'm the perfectionist. We've already identified Dr. Tiffanie is not the second one, which is called the
Superman or Superwoman.
Superman or Superwoman. Keep going.
Okay. So sometimes you might think you're the natural genius, where you feel you have to be born with natural intelligence, and you judge yourself to be a naturally intelligent, competent, and you have to learn everything at a certain speed. And if you don't learn it quick enough, then you're a failure. And if you take too long to master something, then you have inert shame. And if you're not sure if this applies to you, are you used to excelling without much effort? And you feel
I get to coach people like this, not often, thank goodness, but I call them egomaniacs with an inferiority complex.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that can be a problem. And so you always want to get a gold star. You always want to get an award. You want to be rewarded for learning quickly. And so were you told as a child that you were the smart one all the time, and you always want to get that accolade, and you want to get that pat on the back, that attagirl, that attaboy, and that can be a problem. And do you dislike the idea of having a mentor? Where some of us want, that reassurance, that support. You're like, no, I don't need a mentor. I don't want support. That might be something that you consider.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the chat is identifying at all with these. How many perfectionists do we have there? Gerald, My Expired, Sci-Fi Mombi, Jerry. I would love to know how you are identifying as an imposter. Do you ever feel that? So please do put in the chat your own experience, so it's not just us pontificating or sharing with you the goods. We love to make this interactive, so please do put your experience with the imposter syndrome in the chat.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the perfectionist so far. But you can be a hodgepodge, because then there's the soloist. They're like, it's okay to be independent, but not to the extent where you want to refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. And if you're not sure that applies to you, do you firmly feel that you need to accomplish everything on your own, where you refuse any help from anybody? I don't want anyone's help at all. And you might fall into that category where you're always reluctant to let anybody help you. And do you frame requests in terms of, I'd rather go it alone, and I don't want anyone's help?
Yeah. Jerry is ringing in. Perfectionism is sounding like the winner so far. If you also identify with this, I call it the perfectionistic slide. You're a perfectionist. And then if you can't do it perfectly, you get to procrastinator, which is I've always wanted to be a procrastinator, but never got around to it. And then paralysis. So the upside of perfectionist is you do things with detail orientation. The downside is sometimes you don't do anything at all because you don't think you're going to get it perfect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can kind of oscillate between the two. You dread it, and then you go up, then you do it, and you dread it, you go up, and it's a cycle.
Yeah, she got it.
Absolutely. And then there is the expert. The expert measures their competence based on what and how much they know or can do, believing they will never know enough. They fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. And if you're not sure if this is you, ask yourself these questions. Do you stay away from applying to a job posting unless you meet every single educational requirement? Now, see, I always tell my children, let them deny you. You don't deny you. Let them deny you. So go for it.
Good.
Let them say no. And so, are you constantly seeking out trainings or certifications because you think you need to improve your skills in order to succeed? You're like, no, I have to get everything done first. I need to cross all my T's. I need to dot all my I's. I'm like, no, you need to have most of it. Like Dr. Marissa said, you don't need to be 100%, be 88%.
Thank you.
Go for it, people. Go for it. And even if you've never been in your role for some time, can you relate to feeling like you still don't know enough? And do you shudder when someone says you're an expert? It's okay. Even the experts on TV aren't 100% knowledgeable. They know most. They don't know everything. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt. And it doesn't matter what specific profile you fall into. You may be a hodgepodge. Even as a board certified OBGYN, I don't know everything. Even as the specialist, like the maternal fetal medicine specialist or the RAI specialist, that's why there are subcategories within the field of obstetrics and gynecology. They have subspecialties and they have niches because everybody can't know everything about everything. So it's okay to not know everything about everything, people. Get in where you can. What do you think, Dr. Marissa?
Yeah, I think someone in that category is someone who also feels like everybody deserves the right to my opinion. So if you find yourself having to comment on every single thing that's said, you might be in this category because sometimes, you just don't need to tell people what's on your mind. Leave it in your mind.
And so I think that when you feel like you are trying to figure out where you fall, and you have that fear. Remember, fear is false evidence appearing real.
Actually, I'm going to add one to yours. I love fear standing for future events already ruined. So if you're afraid of doing something, you're thinking worst case scenario already, you'll never know. Right? All right. We're on let's see, we got perfectionist, superhero, expert. What was the fourth? We did them all already? Oh, perfect. Okay, what's the fourth and fifth one?
Natural genius, the soloist, and the expert.
Okay. Soloist. That was the one that I
Yeah.
So now that we know what kind of imposter we really are, what is there an upside to having the imposter syndrome? Because you know how I like to not say something is good or bad. Is it useful or not? Especially with respect to happiness. When you are feeling like an imposter, is it for your happiness, or against your happiness? Is it useful for you or not so useful?
I think once you know that it's there, you know how to counteract it. Because once you know you have an issue, then you can address the issue and overcome the issue. Because it's always saying, okay, I have a problem. Well, once you know you have a problem, then you can overcome the problem. And you're dealing with it. Because I always say denial. Denial is more than just a river in Egypt, right?
Yes.
So you can't cross it without identifying and overcoming it. And so once you start addressing it and start knowing the physical features of it, addressing the anxiety, the angst of it, and then you can face it head on, because it can prevent you from applying for a job. It can prevent you from moving forward at your or being promoted, dealing with coworkers, being in a relationship, and it can limit you. And we don't want something like this to limit you because it's not, it may feel real, but it's not necessarily real.
I love there's this plaque. I don't have that plaque, but part of it I do have on a piece of artwork in my bedroom, and it says, "You always know more than you think you know."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really speaks to what you're talking about, Dr. Tiffanie, is that sometimes, especially if you're raised in a culture like mine, Chinese are trained to not toot your own horn. And if you do toot your own horn, it is so shameful. The nail that stands up is hammered down is a Japanese and Chinese saying. So I suffer from feeling shame and guilt every time I open my mouth to be on this show, to open my mouth to be a motivational speaker, because you're not supposed to do that. So if that resonates with you, then it is time for you to own the goodness that you are. It's time for you to own what you do know. You're not the sum of your last success. You are the product of every single thing that you've experienced in life, that you've learned about. I hate that expression, jack of all trades and master of none. That's bullshit talky. Mm-hmm. Whatever experience you've had in life is something that you can be proud of and soothe yourself and say, I'm not stupid. I have, no, I'm not an expert in whatever, or yes, I have spent 10,000 hours doing this. And even though I don't enjoy doing it as much as I used to, I still have a skill that if push comes to shove, I can make money energy with this. So the thing that is bringing a lot of imposters down in terms of happiness is that constant feeling that you're not good enough. So the solution, to answer the question that I'm asking all of y'all, how do you break out of that syndrome? You begin to own what is good about you. That's why we do taking a bite of our gratitude sandwich. That's why I want you, before you go to bed tonight, isolate one thing that you know you're good at or you like about yourself. And for a lot of people, that's super duper hard, because either you've got conditioning that says don't toot your own horn, or you have such a strong critic that has been your dominant voice in your head that's kicking your assets. There are no assets because you're constantly feeling bad about who you are. And if you're listening and you know someone like that, please do share this episode with them. And if you're listening and you know that there's a predominant part of you that is in this category, I've got 2 words for you. Ready? Look in the camera. Look at my face right now. 2 words are stop it. It's not serving your happiness, which is your birthright in life, to be so hard on yourself. And if you don't know where to start, what was the last compliment that you said, oh, no, that's, I'm being an imposter if they think that? What's the last compliment? Dr. Tiffanie, what's the last compliment you got?
The last compliment I received from myself or from someone else?
From someone else.
That I was a great dancer.
Aha, look at the way she's reacting right now. Oh, if that isn't an imposter laugh, I don't know what is. That's a perfect, I couldn't have planned that better. So her laugh is like, oh, come on, really? Yeah. What have you been watching? Do you need glasses? You obviously haven't watched Good Dancers lately. That was all in that laugh. Did you hear it, Jerry? Okay. Erica, it doesn't work when you have to work within a group of people, example, on a committee with an organization. I'm sorry, I was late on that comment, so you can refresh maybe what you were talking about there. But Dr. Tiffanie, I believe that you're a great dancer. I've never seen you dance. Those of you who are on my social media, Doc Balance on Instagram, Dr. Marissa everywhere else, know that I will dance whenever I can, and no fear, and hashtag owning the dancing queen. And I know that I am a good dancer. I'm not a great dancer, but I know I'm a good dancer. So, Dr. Tiffanie, is it possible that you are a good dancer?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And that's 88%. And that's good enough. And that you have insecurity or not a disbelief about that is none of your business. Got it?
Absolutely. And I would say that you do have to know your worth and own it. And I would say to Gary that when you are in a group, a lot of times you have to assert yourself. And I don't know if you were on when I was talking about when I gave my gratitude earlier when I was in the group with my church, and I was asserting myself and talking about my vacations this summer. And I think it's important to assert yourself, whether it's for pleasure or whether it is in your intelligence. And as I was saying, when I was at Vanderbilt, I didn't really own my skills, but I can look back and be thankful and be grateful for the training that I had as a surgeon, as a skilled surgeon doing cesarean sections efficient and effectively, because it prepared me to be a solo surgeon in the middle of nowhere in Nashville, Tennessee, because I was able to do and operate on my own very proficiently. And I think a lot of times we don't own our skills verbally amongst other people. We sometimes feel intimidated and we look at the person to the right and to the left and we think that they know more than we do. Sometimes we know just as much as they do, if not more, but we allow our insecurities to get the best of us. But we shouldn't worry about them. We need to worry about us. Even if we're on a committee, we just need to be focused on us and what we have to say to get the job done.
Absolutely. Good point, Dr. Tiffanie. I'm going to jump on that one as well. This is a gender difference. It's interesting. As an organizational psychologist, I studied why men are a little more successful in their ability to toot their own horn than women are. And one of the reasons is, and we may want to adopt this, is to highlight someone else. If you look in a room of men in a meeting, if one of your colleagues does something well, if you're a guy, it's part of that business culture to go, hey, good job, so-and-so on that, hitting the numbers on that, or, figuring out how to get around that. And so-and-so did a good job on that. It's interesting how for many women, not all women, for many women, the response is so different, which is, oh, she thinks she's got, she thinks she's doing all that. And our ability to support each other as women in a meeting or in a committee is not as pre-wired or as comfortable. So we as women in business got to get a little better at that. Another woman is not your competition. Another woman deserves and it could use your mentored support, right? Informal mentor support. I use that as a strategy. The other practical tool I wanted to bring up, if you're a person who will point out your own, like let's say you say the wrong word, right? In a sentence or in a presentation. And you're like, oh God, you're mortified, hoping that no one has heard that. right? But you do the zit factor. What is the zit factor? It's one of my favorite made up principles. The zit factor is, you got a zit on your face. And when you look in the mirror, all you see is a zit. Everybody else looking at you has no clue that you even have that zit. But because you feel the need to point out your zit, after that, everybody can't stop looking at your zit. So the next time you feel like you need to fall on your sword or point out something that is wrong with you, remember this story. They probably didn't even catch what you said or the mistake or whatever it is that you're so self-conscious about. But once you point it out, they're going to know. So that's a practical Happy 88 tool for anyone who feels like an imposter to stop it. So I'm not just saying stop it. There are ways in which we can exercise our ability to be real and appreciative of ourselves and not be ruled by the imposter. How's that? I got an amen from the Cashew Gallery on that one. That's awesome. All right, Dr. Tiffanie, I think we're getting the 5-minute mark. How would you like to wrap this up with your final word?
I would like to wrap this up by saying we need to always focus on life getting better and focus on our thoughts and growth and opportunity. And remember that no matter what we do, life and our thoughts is a beautiful thing. And if we keep our focus and if we just don't let negativity bring us down, we can move beyond it. Now, once you identify a problem, you can move past it. Now, it doesn't matter what category you fall into it, you can overcome it. Have a great day.
Yay. I'm bringing up Dr. Tiffanie Tate is one of the sponsors of this show. You can find her everywhere. I just Googled, used my assistant Google and put in Dr. Tiffanie Tate books. This is the one that we were talking about earlier. It's my favorite one. It's called Bad Touching. If you have a child or know a mom, perfect for Mother's Day, who is looking for a gift for the woman who has everything, but if they do have smaller children, this is a wonderful book that allows you to safely and respectfully and educationally talk about something that all children need to understand, but a lot of parents maybe don't know how to talk about that. So this show is sponsored by Bad Touching today. As well, this show is sponsored by the Wellness Festival that is coming up this Saturday. I'd like to invite all of you to join me this Saturday at a wellness fest. It is going to be in Rossmore, which is near part of Seal Beach, California. And I will be teaching my balanced Tai Chi Gong there, moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. Please do. You can go look for the Holistic Hulk, who is the organizer of this event, who I met at the March for Merrill when I did that celebrity thing, starting the race. It's wonderful. I love what I get to do, and I meet the most fabulous, interesting people. There's free Pilates, free Zumba. It's a day of wellness just for moms. So if you're anywhere in Southern California, please do get there this Saturday. Another great show sponsor for this show, take my advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. We are so happy that you got to join us today for this really fabulous topic called the Imposter Syndrome. Most importantly, we hope that you've heard something that will help you be less of adopting that imposter syndrome, because you really are one of a kind, wonderful, precious, loving, lovable, and loved, and wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness there is not a throwback in the bunch of you listening now or later, watching now or later. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a nice cashew gallery today. As though we got a finger somewhere along the line. Thank you for giving us the finger, not that one, but this one. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room, and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate
reminding you it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through, inner peace. Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow. Straight Talk, Dr. Marissa Tate Talk.